Well, here we are, not the smartest guys in the room. Tom, can you hear me today?
I can hear you today. Look at this. Look at this. We're taking steps in the right direction. I love it.
Okay. Now your mic seems a little weird today. Now, let me see
My
here.
mic seems a little weird today. Maybe it's on your end.
Could be, could be. It seems like you're far away.
Oh, hang on a second.
We'll just keep rolling along. How do you connect with your audience on social media? That's what we're going to talk about today. Besides the Steelers, and that's what everybody wants to talk about.
Okay, now I sound better.
Now you do sound better.
It's the stupid. It like this drives me nuts. I hate it. For software engineers out there, let me rant for like 2 seconds, okay? Before we get into this. This is not the smartest guys in the room. I'm one of your hosts, Tom, and I'm here with an issue today, right? This drives me absolutely freaking nuts. Nuts. There's so many pieces of software that this happens with, and I don't understand. And maybe it's like because I'm not a software engineer, right? Because I'm not a programmer. Maybe it's something that's incredibly more difficult than I realize it is to do. But drives me nuts when a piece of software defaults to old settings every time you open it. Drives me absolutely crazy. Like, we get in here this morning, your mic sounds great, right? Like, everything seems to be fine. All the things that I control on my end are fine, right? But guess what? The desktop interface for Clubhouse has defaulted again to like old settings that aren't useful. And so you're like, oh, you sound far away. And it's like, yeah, I sound far away because it's not using the microphone that I told it to use the last time I used the software. Right. So it drives me nuts when software doesn't hold on to settings, right? If there's a way to keep software holding on to settings so it doesn't default every time to different random seeming settings, right? That would be super fantastic to any of the software engineers out there. If you're listening, if you're a software engineer, please make it so the settings don't always default to different settings every time you open a piece of software. It drives me absolutely out of my mind. Drives me nuts. Sorry, rant over. I just it's so annoying.
Tom, we don't get early morning rants from you very often, so let's see what, since Dr. Tachi and John are both in that world, let's just start right there. Dr. Tachi, what do you think? Is Tom valid points, or is he just full of piss and vinegar today?
Oh, God of heavens. Good morning. Yes, he has a very valid point. And often, because you're doing so many other things and you're just concerned about getting on the air, you are not thinking, oh, well, let me go into the settings and do X, Y, Z. And I mean, I guess the answer would be to be there super early to do, but that's not always possible. So, yeah, I agree. It should not default.
Okay, she's backing you up, but there is a good point about being there early, but this is weird because of how it goes, how Clubhouse makes you go live at a certain point. John Jay, how do you handle that? Because you do a podcast from your Clubhouse room.
We used to, and
okay.
we don't do the podcast anymore from it. So what I've started doing is I open it about 2 minutes before, and generally we don't start it until a couple minutes after because there seems to be a delay with people coming in the room. It's like you invite people and then it'll grow. All I got to say is, Tom, you got some first world problems. If that's the thing that drives you crazy, and yes, it bothers me too. But we have to keep things in perspective. There are people that are trying to figure out where the next meal is coming from, how people survive, where they have drinkable water, all that stuff. And I sometimes lose sight of that over things like default settings on applications, stuff that's totally beyond my control.
100%, John. I mean, that this is very much, first world problems.
And by the way, you got a baby daughter. How old is she now? How's she doing?
She's 5 months old. She's doing great. She was pleasant this morning, like in a good mood, slept well. She's been sleeping well overall. Like, we're trying not to jinx ourselves, because, we know that there are phases that babies go through, and they may sleep well for a while and all of a sudden start not sleeping well. So
Oh,
we want to make sure we don't jinx ourselves. But so far she's been great. She's happy, she's healthy, she's sleeping well. We're having a good time with her.
just remember this, Tom. Enjoy the time you have her because it'll be over in a blink of an eye. And somewhere along 13 or 14, she will hate you for a couple of years. And you'll be longing for the days when it's about application problems.
Oh, I know. I'm sure she's gonna. I mean, yeah, like she's gonna get to be a teenager and definitely not appreciate dad for a couple of years. And it is what it is. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's. I mean, it's such a cliche. But everybody says, "Oh, it goes so fast. It goes so fast," right? Like you hear that cliche from every parent that ever was. Right, that the time goes so fast. But she's already started outgrowing stuff. Right, so like 5 months in, we just moved her out of the bassinet because she was rolling over and lifting her head up like over the top or over the side of the bassinet, like you could see her whole face over the side of the bassinet. We were like, okay, that's not safe anymore. So just moved her out of the bassinet. She's starting to outgrow stuff. We're already putting stuff away. We're like, okay, well, we're not going to need this again. That was it, 5 months and it's done. So yeah, I hear you. I'm definitely enjoying it while we can. But even with some perspective, I still stand by my previous statement that it's really annoying when software companies can't program in the capacity for an interface to retain your settings. Drives me nuts. First world problem, but I stand by it.
It is. And that was a perfect example of creating a relatable conversation because almost everyone on stage is either a parent, a grandparent, or aunt or uncle. And so that's something they can relate to right away. So kudos to you, Tom.
Hey, well done, Tom. I will say, like you're right, John, because our plan was to talk about how social media works for you today. What you're doing that works that you could share, how you're connecting with your audience. Now, Tom connecting with me right now, I'm sitting here thinking about this, like, I don't know if it was Sigmund Freud that said it, but like no memory is ever lost and like time is relative. So sometimes I bet John or Julie or anybody in this room, you can think back of a time you had with your mom or dad when you were a little kid, and it's like right there, like you're in that moment. And then there's a thought from, like Julie said in the comment, what she said here, it's very relevant. She said, the days are long and the years are short. So in some ways, I can't remember something that happened yesterday, but I can remember, right, my dad being mad at me when I was 10 minutes late at Kennywood because I wanted to ride another ride with a girl, and him freaking out when we got back to the house, so those, so times, it's all relative, man. So, all right, Tom, do we need to get on track here? Go on.
Yeah, maybe we should. I kind of derailed things. I'll take mea culpa, take full responsibility. I derailed things with my rant about the Clubhouse settings on the desktop interface. So anyway, or Club Deck, I guess, is what it's called. But I definitely derailed things. I think what we originally talked about as a subject today is, like you said, social media, kind of what is working and what isn't working and how and why it's working, right? So like just kind of digging into a little bit about what folks are doing on social media and what seems to be working best for them or best for their audience, creating the better connections for their audience, and what isn't. Like, conversely, what are some things that you've tried that have flopped? What are some things that you've tried that have kind of fallen on their face or not paid dividends for you? Because there's always some A/B testing. There's always some trial and error. So I think that was the subject that we had originally discussed, right before I got ranty and annoying.
You're right. Yeah, you were a little crank, a little bit of a curmudgeon today. Okay, so let's go. Since Dr. Tachi, what's working for you right now? Something to connect with your community? Is there something you go to? Like I watch your pre-show and things like that. Is there something when you do your live videos? I like Dr. Tachi Live. Is that something that works for you, or what else you got going on?
Live, yes. As soon as you said that, live works because it's allowed me to gather a community of people that know I will be there for the most part every week, and that I actually am talking to them. I shout them out and that type of thing. It just works for me. So again, I also do the pre-recorded videos and I put those up, and that works well too. But by and large, the live, I see more engagement there than with anything. So I would recommend live video to anyone.
Dr. Tachi, and I will say anybody that's not watching this should. One of the things I enjoy about Dr. Tachi's videos is there's a component of like media, but it's from all sides. So she might tell you her thoughts on like the new Spider-Man movie and why the suit doesn't look right that Spider-Man's wearing, and then she'll tell you about how you're holding your camera too low when you're making a video. So I find it fun. I look forward to seeing which direction she's going to go each time.
Can I just add really quickly? Thank you for noticing that, because that's a way to extend the content that you are able to share. I think sometimes people think I'm going to run out of things to talk about. Well, no. So there are infinite ways to talk about what it is you do. To just look at it from a different perspective.
See how astute I am, Tom? She has a strategy, and I'm seeing it, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, you're a something.
See, he is cranky today. Julie, Trisha, do you think Isla was, like Tom said, she was real sweet? You think she was actually up all night, and that's why Tom's a little bit
No complaining here. There's no crying in baseball.
That's right. That's right.
But it's a rite of passage for you, Tom.
That's right. Thank you, Julie.
The funny thing is she did sleep well last night. In fact, I got a really good night's sleep. My sleep score for my Oura Ring is actually way higher than it typically is. So I did get a good night's sleep.
Oh, wait, I want to know about this Oura Ring, because that might be a good Christmas gift this year for somebody. Like it?
Yeah, I mean, so to explain to everybody, an Oura Ring, if you're watching the live stream, I'm holding up my hand. That's my Oura Ring on my finger. So basically it's a ring that has some biometric sensors built into it, right? So it can measure a bunch of different things focused around sort of heart rate variability. It tracks your respiration rate, and it tracks based on a variety of those features. It sort of tracks your sleep, right? So like I have a friend who's a sleep doctor, and she gets very unhappy about some of these sleep tracking devices because they don't really track your sleep. They take a best guess based on other factors as to when you're asleep and when you're not. There's also accelerometers in it, so it can see how much you're moving, things like that. So anyway, basically it's a tiny sensor array in a ring that you can wear on your finger that tracks a bunch of biometric data. I like to use it for training purposes, for distance races. My wife Becky also has one, and we use them for that kind of things, to track sort of how ready we are for things, whether or not we're getting good sleep, or enough sleep, whether we're our heart rate variability or resting heart rate is trending up or down, to give us a sense of our overall fitness and if we're going in the right direction. So for all those things, it's great. But it is just something that's sort of a good way to sort of track your rest and recovery, and see what kind of shape you're in. So for that, I think I really like it. I've had one since, I think, not the first generation, but the second generation. This ring is the third generation. The fourth generation just came out. So I've had one for probably 4 plus years. 4 or 5 years. I've been wearing one, and I really like it. And Becky really likes it too. It's an easy piece of technology to wear. So I like it better than Whoop. personally. The Whoop straps, for anybody who's heard of those. Similar kind of idea. I just like it better because I don't have to have anything on my wrist. So yeah, I like them. I endorse the Aura Ring. I rubber stamp it. I think it's a good tool to be able to measure some straightforward biometric data and get a sense of kind of how you're doing overall.
There you go, Julie. You got your new present.
Ordering it.
I will tell you, I was commentating a alumni basketball game this weekend, a college one, and I saw one of the guys out there turn like his watch on, and I'm like, wait a minute, are you turning your step counter on during the game? That is as lame as can be. And he was like, oh, I got to count my steps. That is the opposite of cool. So no matter what Julie says and that she's buying it, that is not cool. That's my thoughts. Okay. How do you connect on social media? What's working for you? I like engaging. Just I'm like a good troll. I like to go on and see what other people are doing, comment on it. But I'm going to go to John on this because I think John is in my world of this engaging post. I will put out stuff like that I want feedback on, and it is direct. It's direct questions and things like that to engage the community. And then what do they care about? Find that out, and I do it a lot. So John, Jay, what's working for you, my friend?
What's working for me, first and foremost, on social media land is Facebook. And what I tell people and what I've learned, and this is my research and working on radio, podcasts, radio, web, Facebook pages, it's about creating content that they want, attract the audience you want. Don't make it all about you. If you make it all about you, your product, your service, facts, there's an old saying, facts don't sell. Emotions sell. Emotions get people. They'll grow your page. So quite often I'll put a post up, and here's two strategies people use. One is I don't do this one, but one is they'll put up a picture of a 68 Dodge Charger, and I'll say, this is a gorgeous 68 Chevrolet Camaro, isn't it? Knowing that people will correct them in the comments. I don't do that, but some things I do is I'll put up a photo of, here's a post I did earlier this morning, NFTA police, some transportation police up in New York State somewhere. I think they did a Santa Claus themed cruiser, and I had 5 or 6 photos of it and said, your thoughts on this Christmas Santa themed cruiser for whatever the department it is, and question mark, and let it go. I guarantee you that post will do more. People will say things, it's a waste of money, it's this, it's that, I think it's great. They will respond to it because I'm trying to get their attention emotionally and not trying to get them to buy something from me or listen to something or any kind of ask. So I go by, the last thing I'll close on is I go by on that platform, I go by a 4-to-1. So it's 4 engagement posts with 1 ask. And that ask usually has an old episode of my show or a news break article or something with a URL that takes them off the platform. But I don't do those back to back, never do. That's all I got to say.
John, good stuff. Love it. And that's direct. And just you talking about that picture is something that I would engage in, right? That's, you spoke my language. I would be like, oh, this is cool. So this, more people should be doing that. All right, let's keep it rolling. How do you connect with your audience on social media? I'm going to say, John introduced me to Newsbreak a while ago. I do Newsbreaks periodically. I do them about my authors. Like to John's point, it's not all ask. I see, and this is for me on an app that I don't use a lot. I see yesterday, I see 1,240 impressions and 31 views of something I wrote about Christmas movies. I polled people on my Motivation Champs group. So polled people on Motivation Champs group, and they said they gave me their 10 favorite movies Christmas, from Die Hard to Home Alone. I took the ones that I felt I saw the most. I copied and pasted it, went over to ChatGPT. I said, my Motivation Champs group says these are the best movies. What's the motivational moral of each one of those, made a Newsbreak article, and I'll share it more places. But that quickly, content all over the place. And it was John who encouraged me to use Newsbreak, and I'll be able to share that kind of content. I was able to do my strategy on social media. The engagement came from the group on something they wanted to talk about. So Julie Loken, what is working for you? What's something you do that works for you consistently? I see you have top podcast, and what's working for you?
Are we talking social media? Is that?
That is the game. What do you got, Julie? And I could.
Well, I don't got a great social media game.
Is a podcast considered social media? So, I mean, is it a different form of social? Go on.
I would say so.
Okay,
I've never
go on.
considered social, but yeah, I mean, podcasting absolutely has opened a lot of doors for me. 1,000%. I really like our Facebook group for Creative Con. To be honest, that's the one I probably put most of my energy in, and I think we have great engagement. And it's about getting that energy up and creating awareness. So that's what I would say social media wise is working for me. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
So I'm curious, what do you find, Julie, in that in the Creative Con group on Facebook? You said you put most of your time and your energy into. What do you find actually sort of pays the best dividends or gets the most engagement or the audience most involved in posts in that group? What works the best?
I would say pictures, like that have nothing to do with the actual event, and doing polls. But mostly pictures. I find when people post pictures of themselves, that's where the most engagement. I just posted some random picture of my whole family this weekend from Thanksgiving. You know, it gets a lot of attention. And I would say probably our biggest one was also when we announce different people who are speaking, like David Meltzer. People seem to like that. So definitely pictures, though. And Dom's one more, like, one sentence questions.
Yeah, I think to Julie's point, I spend a lot of time on the page as well. And I find, like John said, when we can make it about them, however that is, like what city you represent in, what is your special skill? I bet we didn't do that. But
tell them about your new strategy for posting too, Tom.
What's my new strategy? I have 50 strategies.
Oh my God, I have to remind you. The one where we poach other people's pictures.
Yeah, because that's boring. Okay, but one of my friends told me, like in an event like Creative Con where we're posting about all our different speakers and things like that, everybody is working on their own stuff. So for me to ask somebody to post, hey, even though you're speaking at my event, come post about Creative Con, spend your time posting about something else. People aren't going to do it. But if you are able to take that and see that, hey, John J. Wiley, he has a nationally syndicated show. He kicks butt. People call him Uncle Jay. They wear mustaches around that look like John Jay. He's informative. He can teach you about social media marketing. He's going to appear live at Creative Con. Come meet him there. So that's that strategy. So it's using their content and then, hey, come meet them at this event. So that's what Julie is speaking of. Go on. All right. So I'm moving on from that. I got so many strategies. You want to give me strategies just like a couple weeks ago?
Your strategy is probably not to have a strategy.
Yeah, right. No, I always have strategy. A couple weeks ago, I was saying about there's the potato patch in Pittsburgh. Potato patch, the best French fries ever. Fresh cut potato patch. And one of our famous backup quarterbacks was Charlie Batch. I want potato batch. I got to get to this guy and tell him about this great idea. So nobody's buying in, but I convinced my daughter, and she has now come around on the idea. She likes potato batch as a French fry company. So coming to your mall soon, potato patch. Potato batch. What do you think, Tom?
I think it sounds an awful like you're saying potato with a B.
Yeah, potato batch.
How about potato batch?
That's what I'm
Potato
saying. It
batch.
sounds like you're
Potato
saying
batch.
potato
Potato batch.
batch.
Potato
TVs.
batch might be a better name. Okay, forget you. I don't like any of you. I like Trisha. So Trisha, what is working for you on social media?
Hey, so it's funny that you mentioned about posting other people's pictures because I seem to find when I do remixes of other people's stuff and tell their stories about them, it seems to get a lot of engagement. So like their reels and things like that, when I find stories about, so I work with women that are trying to get their confidence up in social media. So when show stories about women that are doing the thing, getting their stuff together on social media, and I share it out, I seem to get a lot of engagement with that. So it's kind of like the other women that are trying to do it feel confident about it, like they can do it too. So I get a lot of engagement with that stuff on like IG. So that's me.
There you go. It seems like similar to what I would think John's doing with the sharing, like the police, the troopers decorating a Christmas car. Okay, Tom, go on. I'm tongue tied.
No, you're good. You're good. You got it. You got it.
Okay,
I believe in you.
Serenity now. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. In a couple weeks, we're going to do lump of coal. That's one of my favorite things that get lump of coal. So
Start thinking about your lumps now. What are your
Yeah.
what are your lumps of coal you want to hand out for the year? It'll be I'm actually really looking forward to it because on that day I can rant all I want and it's allowed. I can just be like, and I can just end every rant with, and so I'm giving them a lump of coal.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
And then,
It's a positive thing, but it's lumps of coal that we all know are coming. So
I
take
don't
your
know if it's
lumps.
a positive thing. I feel like that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Well, if it's bad and we can improve on it, that could be it could be positive.
So we should think of it as a constructive criticism.
There you go. It makes me someday when I sell Motivation Champs and I decide, okay, I've had enough, did enough good for the world. I go into negativity. Well, the negative champs, mean champs. That's next. So okay, Chris, what is working for you on social? I like to see pictures of Chris with their big smile. So what do you got, Chris? Or what's working for your clients? Go on.
Good morning, everyone. For myself, I am pretty horrible at posting and promoting myself. But for my clients, and depending on the client and the social site, depends on how I post. So I have a client he's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, but primarily we get clients from LinkedIn. So I just have a strategy set up where I rotate posts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday type rotation. And I do a combination of an article because they live longer on Instagram. Then with that, I will do something that talks about what we do. So the article gets posted on his page. Then I do 3 posts a week on the business page, and generally tie it back to his personal LinkedIn page. I think it's really important that when you're doing social, anytime you can, is to attach yourself to something larger than yourself. So, for example, my client is actually doing the graphic recording for David Meltzer at Creative Con. So when I post about that, you better believe that I'm going to tag David Meltzer or David Meltzer Enterprises, so that the folks that, follow him or are connected to him have an increased possibility of seeing this information. So it just widens that net.
Got it, Chris. Good stuff. I had one of my first business partners was well, it wasn't first. It was after, pretty far in the process, but was a master of algorithms, and he would always use, when he was doing social for people, he always used that connecting to somebody bigger, because he believed in a spider web of the algorithms of the internet. So when he was growing people's followings, he was always using hashtags of the country artist or whoever that he was working with at the time. And then I see, I don't even want to say it. I was going to say, then hypothetically speaking, sometimes we might be at an event together, and like a book signing or something like that, and this person might have started to yell at like passersby and things like that, like aggressively yell at people in the crowd, and I'm like, what is going on here? I think it's time to go a different direction. So that may have happened. So anyway, sidebar on that. Okay, Tom, what do you got, man? Steer me back here.
Steer you back. Well, I mean, I think one of the things that jumped out to me from what some of the folks were talking about was thinking about, like, repurposing content, right? Which I think is always a good idea. The big sort of caveat I would put on that is make sure that you give clear attribution whenever you repurpose content. There's a big creator on TikTok who also has a big YouTube channel, and I forget his name. But basically he like reacts to like recipe videos and then like tries to recreate them essentially. And he's like, it's all like, overblown, over the top reactions and craziness and silliness or whatever. He's got millions of followers. But one of the consistent things is he doesn't give attribution in the videos that he stitches. So he'll download the video, like create a stitch out of it basically on his own, and remove the username and not tag the original creator. I just think every time I see one of his videos now, I just scroll right past, because somebody pointed that out to me. And I went to his page, I looked through a bunch of his videos, and sure enough, there was never any attribution that I could find for any of the videos that he was stitching.
Tom,
And
can I ask you just, so on TikTok, there's like a collab, like where some people, like let's say you could push that people could collab with their videos. So you're saying this guy uses that collab and then somehow probably deletes any of the other person's info off of it?
No, what I'm saying is he probably doesn't use the collab. He probably uses some software, which there's tons of web-based applications to just download the video, to rip the video off of TikTok. And then he puts the video in his own video, right? Without giving the original creator any credit. So he's got this following of millions of people, right, on TikTok, and he never gives credit to the people on whose backs he's built this following, because his whole shtick is reacting to other people's recipe videos and then trying to recreate them. Like, that's what he does. That's what his channel is. It's all built on of other people. Like, it's all built off of other people's content. And he doesn't give credit for it. So like, I would say too, just make sure, I think one of the big caveats, like instantaneously when I realized that, when that was pointed out, and I went back and I confirmed it myself, instantaneously, he went to the bottom of the pile for anybody that I would ever follow, be interested in, support in any way, et cetera, et cetera. I would say, so basically I just wanted to point that out as an example of like the wrong way to do it. And if you're going to repurpose other people's content, make sure you give them attribution, right? Make sure you are clear on whose content it is, and give them some of that shine that you're getting from repurposing it. Just make sure that you give credit where credit's due, right? It's very easy to not do that.
So for my radio host, podcasters, streamers in the room, do people use your stuff without sharing it, without like crediting you? And how do you feel when that happens? Like, John, does that happen to you, or Julie, Dr.
Yeah,
Chachi?
it's happened to me, and most of the time, I just don't sweat it. I just disregard it because every now and then I will make a comment that you took everything I use word for word and post it as your own, and then they usually turn around and say they give me credit for it. But I'd say 98% of the time I don't, because look, what someone else does really has no effect on what I do. And the minute I start putting my focus on what someone else does instead of what I do, I've lost the battle, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too, John. And I think, to be clear, like, I don't think it's a winning battle to fight, to go after people that are taking your content or reusing your content without attributing it. That's a never ending sort of slippery slope that you could fall down, chasing people around trying to do it. Here's what I would do is, say I made a recipe video, and that creator that I was talking about on TikTok took that video and stitched it and didn't give credit, didn't give me attribution for the original video. I would reshare it myself, right? And I would tag him in it, and I would say, hey, so cool that so and so took my video and made a TikTok about it or stitched it, right? And reshare it with them tagged in it, right? Like, that's probably all I would do if it came to my attention. I wouldn't go after them and wagging my finger and yelling at them, but I would just try to turn it back and use their audience to gain some additional followers. Because if they're going to steal my content, I might as well repurpose it for myself and use it to gain some more following. So that's what I would do, right? I would just say, hey, isn't this cool? Like, my video was good enough that so and so decided to stitch it and do their own video off of it. That's it. So don't go chasing people down. It's a slippery slope, one you're probably not going to find success at the bottom of. So yeah, don't go chasing people around for attribution. Like John said, you can't control what other people do, right? You can only control what you do. So just make sure you're using your time wisely and move on. I would say take it as some flattery, see if you can turn it back and use it to gain some more followers for yourself or some more attention for yourself. And if not, just keep moving forward and know if somebody's ripping you off, you're on the right track. You're doing something right.
There you go, Tom. Tom, I almost want to hand out I sent Tom a message. This is reminding me of, we have somebody that, like, a famous person that connected with one of our authors and was trying to do stuff with our authors. And then they basically stole the book and wrote the same exact book with almost the same title. I mean, what a ripoff. They were contacting our guy trying to get them to do events with them. And then a lump of coal for that guy. All right, let's go on. If somebody's copying it, what was it, Tom? If somebody's copying, what did you say?
I said, if somebody's ripping you off, if somebody's copying you, then you're probably doing something right.
Okay,
right. So
serenity.
Like, take it as a sign that you're doing something right. You're making something good, creating something good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, use it that way. Look at it that way. Right.
Serenity
okay. Now. Yeah.
Okay.
Do a couple ohms. Some deep breathing, Wim Hof. I don't know, something like that. Wim Hof breathing. I don't know if you're in an ice bath. Maybe.
No. We might have on Creative Con. There's supposed to be. We might have people going in ice baths this year, jumping in like instead of walking across coals, put your goals out to the world and hop in the cold plunge. So like jumping. I jumped in a river a couple of years ago on January 1st. It was, well, I'll tell you, sidebar. So come to Creative Con, put your fears aside, cast them out to the world, and jump in the ice bath. But I jumped in a couple of years ago. I'll tell you the problem with this. I jumped in a river on like early in January or something like that. And dirty river in Pennsylvania. Brown. I won't say it's dirty, but we got some brown rivers. Anyway, jump in this river, freezing cold river. It's got ice on the edges of it, but the warming tent was like 5 football fields away. So after you jump in the river to go get warm, you got to like run through the streets of the town for like half a mile. Come to Creative Con, we'll just put a towel right around you right after you jump in the tank, so you don't got to go half a mile. That's how simple it is. All right, so that's my plug of the day for jumping in ice cold baths instead of rivers this year. All right, Tom, what say you on that?
I mean, do you really want me to start talking about cold plunges?
No, I don't. Unless
And
unless you've ever done one, you can find my bikes and hikes. We're on bikes and hikes hiatus right now. We haven't filmed for a while. My buddy hurt his back. I'm recovering from my 6 hernias, so we have not had a show bikes and hikes for a while. They're watching reruns.
I mean, look, from a health perspective, my opinion of cold plunging, right, is that it's about on par with like it's the 1980s juice fad of today, right? It's like, oh, juice is the best thing. Juice is amazing. Everybody's getting juicers. We should all get juicers. We should all be drinking juice. We should drink, celery juice and wheatgrass juice and carrot juice all the time and blah, 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 blah. Everybody's buying a juicer. Get a juicer from your home, right, for your home in the 1980s. And then come to find out that really actually juicing is not any sort of miracle cure. It's not incredibly great for you. It was just a way to sell juicers. And cold plunging is basically the same. There's no real good science showing that it provides dramatic benefits. Sometimes people feel better after doing it. Okay, right? Like that's fine. If it makes you feel good, sort of, not generally speaking, no harm as long as you don't do it too long. You can actually put your body under tremendous stress if you do it wrong, and it can increase cortisol production, and it's a whole thing. And I'm not a physiologist, so I'm not gonna pretend to be, but yeah, it's a fad.
Hey, well, we're not putting you in a tank for a year. You're not buying a tank. You're stepping out of your comfort zone, man. So, hey, all right, let's go on here. How do you connect with your audience on social media?
Well,
Tom, we're going to push Tom in the river.
Well, hold on. I was going to say, Julie said nothing wrong with fads in the comments.
Yeah.
And my response to that is, yeah, maybe nothing wrong with fads, but also nothing good about them either.
Hey, come on, Julie. What do you got? Oh, she's giving you a mic that's quiet. Okay, fair enough. But
I got the silent treatment.
Silent mic that came off and gave you that's a silent and on. Okay. Let's see here. How do you connect with your audience on social media? I wanted to say early in this room, back in the comments, I had to mute this guy and kick him out. This guy came right out hot early in the room today. I don't know if you saw this. And he said, can you send me $200? And there was like there was something, but I was just like, what a moron. Like,
yeah, I didn't see that. There was some other person who jumped in out of nowhere and just immediately went into the comments and started posting about like becoming vegan. Like they were trying to sell veganism, and then they left the room. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to delete those comments, because if you're going to come in and just post a comment and then bounce, right, and like not actually participate in the conversation, like then your comment gets taken down. And I probably would have kicked him out anyway, but yeah, and look, like, hey, if you want to be vegan, that's fine. But like, it was just really weird. They came in and just posted like, you should be vegan for these reasons, blah, 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 and then they left.
And we might stay. And the thing is, this is an open space.
Yeah.
So we would say, interesting. Maybe
we love to get sidetracked.
Yeah, like, maybe I should quit eating so much. Maybe I should quit eating fried chicken and eat pinto beans and nuts. I'm not opposed if somebody tells me a good reason behind it.
I mean, look, hey, I had a vegan dinner last night, not kind of on purpose. That's just what we ate. We made a chickpea curry with spinach and had it over rice with some homemade chili crisp, and it was freaking delicious. But like, you know, I mean, I eat vegan foods, I eat vegetarian foods. I don't eat meat with every meal necessarily, but like, I don't know. It's just weird. I would have had a conversation about it.
Okay, here's what we're gonna have another conversation here because Joe Slaughter, I see him in some cold water here. So it looks like I'm looking at his thumbnail picture. It could so Joe.
I mean, you guys instigate it. Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
bring it
Why?
on. What
Why
do you
cold water
got, Joe?
plunging?
What do you got,
All
man?
right.
So you were like me. You've been in the icy river. How was it?
Well, this is one thing I'll say. You sure as hell shouldn't have to pay $40 to go into some cold tub because there's free versions of it in the world. Go do the free version.
That's
Put some
right.
thought to it.
So where'd you do this at? What state you in? Was it cold or is this like a summer river?
Minnesota.
Okay.
They have a open hole cut in the lake. Every weekend it's available. Every night it's available. You could just go. They get a permit to put an orange fence around the lake and have a hole in it. They got a ladder that you can go in and set it in whenever you want. So it's just continuously open as a community offering.
Okay, hold on here. So we like to get sidebarred here. So aren't you freaked out walking out on like an icy lake and then is there a ladder down into the water or do I just gotta like scratch up on the side? How do I know I'm not gonna like float?
They have a little step ladder. I mean, you can stand in the water, right? Okay. So if you set the ladder in the water, you got a nice little step into it. You don't have to worry about the little sharp edges. They got a couple of yoga mats that have probably been set on the side that you can put up next to the edge if you do want to get in and out from the side. But always pull them away from the edge of the ice so that way they don't freeze into the lake. It's put them off to the side again so that way someone can roll them out again when they need them. So yeah, they make it easier. Okay. I would say it's great for when you're first trying to acclimate to a cold. Do it for like a minute. Get out, go sauna, go enjoy, have a warm day, and go off and do your world. And your blood's pumping a little bit from it, and you feel a little enthusiastic about your day. Some of the intense people will go in there and they'll sit like it's a bath for 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Joe. As I said, I think it can provide it can be fun. So like, look, if you know, jumping into in a safe way, obviously, if jumping into a frozen lake in a safe way is fun, then like by all means go do it. Like, and I'm not opposed to, like, I would go do that if there was a fundraiser or something and it was like, hey, let's do a polar plunge like for a fun. Absolutely, 100%. I would be there. I would do it. No question. That's not what I'm talking about though. When I was talking about it before, right? Is I was talking about like the industry that's grown up around cold plunging, right? For sort of like athletic and health benefits. And actually some of the science is pretty clear that like, in addition to, if you do it too often, you can raise cortisol levels because you're putting your body through a lot of stress. It can actually have sort of negative effects down the line. Because when you jump into cold water, it releases, increases epinephrine and norepinephrine in your body, which are, the sort of fight or flight hormones, right? It causes that sort of that response, which can leave you kind of feeling energized and excited and happy. But also if you do that too much, you put a lot of strain on your system, right? The other thing too, is that for athletic performance, they found that, so like if you're trying to get better athletically, i.e. you're trying to build muscle mass, you're trying to improve your training capacity, you're trying to improve, your performance, right? Physically, what cold plunging can do is it can reduce reduce exercise induced muscle damage, right? Well, exercise induced muscle damage is how you improve physically, right? That's how you build muscle. Your muscles get sore when you lift weights because you're actually tearing the muscles. And then when they rebuild themselves, when they repair stronger, right? So That's the big problem, is if you reduce that damage, then you're reducing the training effect, i.e. you're reducing the amount that your training benefits you over the long term. So like people who are like, I go to the gym and then immediately jump in a cold plunge, it's like, well, that's maybe not a great idea, because if you actually want to see improvement from your time in the gym, then maybe you should stop shooting yourself in the foot by jumping in a cold plunge immediately afterwards. So that's what I'm saying. And like the fad thing too that I'm talking about is like, I see advertisements all the time for like 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 like refrigerated cold plunges you can set up on your back patio, and like they're thousands and thousands of dollars, and people are buying these things because they think they're the best thing to happen to health, since juicing in the 80s. But the science doesn't really back it up. So I think, there can be some benefit theoretically and some fun to jumping into cold water every once in a while. But don't get one and put it on your patio. Don't spend $5,000 on a cold plunge and put it on your patio. It ain't worth it. That's
you could lay out in the snow. All right, Tom. Okay, I was frozen for a minute. Now I don't think I'm frozen. So if I'm not frozen, I think it should be time for show and tell.
I think yes, it is time for show and tell. And you were frozen. I was just choosing to believe that you were very focused on paying attention to what I was saying about cold plunges. And now you froze again.
Now I think I'm frozen
again.
Yeah,
there you go. All right.
It's going to have to be a quick show and tell, or it could be trouble.
Make it, or it'll freeze right on the show and tell.
Okay, so this right here is the terrible towel, the best thing in sports. This is what our Steeler fans wave at the games. You go like this and you wave it, and there's certain times of the day where you wave it. This one is from 1995 when we went to the Super Bowl. I was at the game before. There was a Hail Mary. It was beautiful. It was the best time ever. I took this to the game for years, but then I dropped it a couple times. And I realized like maybe I was having too much fun and dropped it on the ground and almost lost it. So I have to keep it in my house now. I had to get new ones. I have multiples, but I have new ones. I dropped one and lost it the other day. I was at a tailgate. The girl said she saw me. Later I was looking for it. She said, I saw you drop it and didn't tell me. This other terrible towel, but this special one from 1995, I couldn't risk that happening. So I have to keep it home and never take it out. But if we go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to the Super Bowl, even if I have to refinance my house, and I will take this towel. So that's what you got today, Tom. This great, terrible towel.
So that towel is in retirement until the Steelers go to the Super Bowl again?
Yes.
Gotcha. Nice.
Understood. Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
I like it. I'm curious, where did the idea of the terrible towel originate? Like, how did it start?
One of our commentators, Myron Cope, that he probably was the real Yinzer, the truest Yinzer, spoke in a different dialect and got super excited. He had this idea to bring your towels and then bring the yellow towels. Then he made a towel. It actually says Myron Cope's official terrible towel. He had an autistic daughter, and he used the funds to help support autism awareness and things like that. And it still goes to that today. So sometimes people will try to duplicate the towel, but there is only one true terrible towel. And all these other teams that try to copy him, they stink. And that's the origins of the terrible towel in the 70s when they were winning championships like crazy.
And is it terrible just because terrible towel is an alliteration?
Interesting. Well, they were the steel curtain. They were tough. So that I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I want to know why it's a terrible towel.
I think it's a term that they used as a term of endearment to describe their defense. The Steelers back in the 70s, they were terrible in a good way. They were fearsome.
That's what I'm thinking. Instead of terrific.
And then people would use they throw the towel around when field goal kickers, the opposite team, were kicking field goals to serve as a distraction. So the goal was to interrupt their concentration and make them miss.
I like it. I like it. I like that. Thanks for the additional info there, John. Yeah, no, I like that. So terrible in a as a positive.
In a mean, tough way.
Like
It's
Mean Joe Green. And he
yeah,
was not a mean guy, but that was his name. And he had a reputation for being a terrible person in a very good way. And just along the Mean Joe Green bit, he was not a mean guy. Still is not.
Good point.
Terrible on the football field. Terrible on the gridiron,
yeah,
right?
There you go. I like it. Okay, then we got Eric G. Eric jumped up, but then at one point, in the fourth quarter, at some point, we play a special song in 60-some thousand, wave them all at the same time in unison. It's one of the greatest things in sports. It is community. It's community at its best, which we were talking about here today. So, Eric, what do you got for us? What do you want to add?
I'm just going to add that it's a simple knockoff from the Homer Hanky. I mean, come on. The Homer Hanky was first. Minnesota Twins pennant race.
Oh my goodness. How dare you? How dare you trying to rain on my championship parade? All right, on that note, Tom, it is time for you to bring it all together. You ready for that kind of pressure? You ready to do a terrible wrap up in honor of the terrible towel?
It may not be terrible. It may not be terrible in the best possible sense of the word, but yeah, why not? Let's try to put a bow on this pig. So anyway, we talked about a lot of things today. I've ranted a little bit and complained both about my concerns with software engineers and the retention of settings in different programs that I use. From that to the debating the positive or negative effects of fads, including cold plunges, to actually talking about what we set out to talk about today, which was how you engage your audience on social media. And I think to end on that, to put my 2 cents in, I think the best thing you can do to build community, maybe one that eventually someday will be waving terrible towels around, like the community around the Steelers. To build community, I think the best thing you can do is to provide value to your audience. And instead of going up to them with your hand out, asking first, give them value first, and then invite them to return that value to you. John was talking about this earlier with his sort of 4-to-1, I think was the sort of ratio that he tends to use, where he provides 4 pieces of content for the audience before providing one that is sort of an invitation, right? It's an invitation. Hey, if you liked all of those things, here's something else you might like too. And it's an invitation to go read a news article that John's written or go listen to an old episode of his show. So again, it's an invitation, not an ask. And I think there's an important distinction to be made there. So I think, for what it's worth, my 2 cents, if you want to engage your audience, you want to build community over time, I think that you ought to make sure that you are giving more than you're asking for, that you give first, you provide value to your audience, and that when the time comes, you simply invite them to return that value to you. And over time, you will see that they will show up for you. And eventually you may end up with a metaphorical stadium full of fans waving terrible towels around for you. So that's all I got for this week. Thanks to everybody for being here. Really appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys being a part of this with us every week here on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. For Dom, I'm Tom. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We will see you next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, right here, all across the internet, for Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.